I had to. Let's go again. The Holy Spirit, I guess, I get like the tingles, like I get that physical tingling, and I started getting that when you started praying, and I was like, okay, this is good.
So much better.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, God, you're with me on this. So I grew up in church. I was baptized as a baby. I went to Sunday school. My parents taught Sunday school. We were really involved in our community church, and I have really great memories of church as a kid. And then as I started to get older, and I played soccer, and it started to become a bigger part of my life, Sundays started getting taken over a little bit by that. I remember like sitting at that time, there was pews, and like so sitting in these like old school wooden pews and being in my soccer uniform, and like we'd be there for a bit, and then I'd remember we'd have to like get up and scurry out. I've been in church for such a long time, and it was really beautiful, and I'm very grateful for that, because faith has never, God hasn't been difficult for me. Like that wasn't something that I found difficult to believe, because he's just always been a part of my story. As I started understanding dynamic a little bit more, I started seeing a little bit more judgment in like the church and different things. And so I've definitely through my journey like had an up and down relationship with church, I think. Like I said, God wasn't difficult for me. I have an incredible father, and so I have this really great earthly father figure, so believing in a God father figure was easy, but Jesus was harder. I grew up understanding, I guess, religion more, and not that it was all bad, because it wasn't, but I did understand religion, and I think relationship, it wasn't something that I understood. It wasn't something I ever remember hearing that being talked about. And so that idea of relationship with Jesus, that was very difficult for me when that started being sort of talked about and spoken of in different places and areas where I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? There's a difference? And so, yeah, I think that for me was kind of like where it all began. So after I like played soccer, it was my life, it was my identity, it was who I was. Like it's how I knew myself, and it's how everybody else knew me. And then this like random modeling in New York comes up, and I do that for a little bit, and then I ended up having to go home. I ended up like homeless in New York, and it's a big long story. I moved back in with my parents, and New York had become home for me, and so I felt like I had lost my home, and I lost my church, and someone that I was very, very close to and had previously dated, he passed away in a car accident. And then not 2 weeks later, I got in a bike. I was on a mountain bike and riding on the road, and I hit some train tracks and flew in front of a semi truck, and landed directly on my knee and like basically destroyed my knee. And so I had been training to try to get back to soccer, because that's all I knew. It's all I knew who I was. So I didn't even have a concept of what to do outside of that. And they told me I would never play again, and I would likely never run again. And so I lost, in a matter of like a month, everything that I felt made up me, and everything that felt like it mattered. Like I said, this is after I've like had a relationship with Jesus and kind of started to walk into that and got rebaptized, but all of a sudden my whole identity of who I knew myself to be was stripped away. And I like spun out into a very dark place and was experiencing some pretty extreme depression and started having panic attacks and I had a hard time leaving the house, had a hard time driving, just experiencing something I had never experienced before. I've never been depressed. That hasn't been my story, and all of a sudden it was, and I didn't know what to do with myself, and I didn't know how to get through it, and I wondered where God was in the middle of it. But I look back now and I see he was right. He was right in the middle of it, and there was a stripping back of my identity, and I don't think God caused any of those things, but I know he used it. And I know that in the middle of our hardest moments and our darkest times, if we give him the opportunity, he will use it. Like, there's nothing wasted with him. There's no part of our story that gets wasted when we allow him into our story. And I think that's something that only he can do. It's not something I think we can do on our own. So I have had a shift in that I understand the relationship now with Jesus, and I understand that it's a journey and it's lifelong and it doesn't stop, and I'll have many ups and downs, but he's always with me. I had this friend who, she was actually on an opposing team, and her boyfriend, she was traveling a lot, but her and her boyfriend became really good friends, and she told him, you make sure Kim gets to church. And he became almost like an uncle to me. They were a little bit older than me, and he became like an uncle, and he became someone who I could ask anything to. I could ask him any question about God and about my faith, and he would talk me through these things in the most kind and loving way, with no judgment, and no like, hey, you need to do this, or you should be doing this. It was just so full of grace, I think is the perfect term. It was just so full of grace and kindness. It was almost like each thing prepared me for the next. And so I finished playing in Europe and I ended up in New York City. In New York, I started going to a church there that I really fell in love with, and I really started to hear messages of relationship and hear about Jesus in a way where he's a friend and a brother and just everything that you need in life in this one person, and he's loving and kind and not judgmental, and just started understanding relationship. But I don't think that if it hadn't been for my prior experiences, I don't know if I would have been prepared for what that was. And it, now I look back at New York, and for a while I felt like, oh, I failed there, but I see that like that's where I got rebaptized, and I have it tattooed on my arm, and I came to an understanding of relationship with God, and I set my life from that point on that it would be different. And that was kind of like I think one of the most major turning points for me in my relationship. And not to say I experienced the darkest time in my life after that. So it is a journey, and it doesn't mean it's easy, but it is. He's walked me through every single thing, and he's grown me through every hardship and every trial and everything that has happened. There has been some level of personal growth for me that I think speaks to the redemptive power of who he is. Because without him, I wouldn't have made it through. I would say you don't have to clean yourself up. You don't have to be anybody that you're not. You don't have to fix any the things or whatever it is that is holding you back, that He's right there with you now. Whether we're willing to admit it or not, He is there, and He loves you, and He accepts you exactly where you are. And it's not our job to fix ourselves. It's not our job to transform ourselves. That's who He is. That is the beautiful power of Jesus working within us. And so all it is giving ourselves over to Him and knowing we're human beings. That's why God sent Jesus. Because like when you start to look at the Bible and you look at the original context, and like we did not have the ability to pull it all together on our own. God gave us opportunities. We messed it up. We're humans, and the story hasn't changed. We're going to mess up. We're going to get it wrong. We're going to continuously fail and fall and not get it right. And He never says, sorry, not until you get things right. Sorry, don't come to me. Never. He says, I love you. I made you. I want to be in relationship with you. Don't worry, I've got this. And as we give ourselves over to His love and His grace, yes, will He convict our hearts on things? 100%. And is that difficult? 100%. It doesn't feel good. But just because it doesn't feel good doesn't mean it is not good. It is. Everything about Him is good. Everything about Him is love. Everything about Him is kindness. And that is who He is. So you're enough exactly where you are, and give Him a chance, even a little one.